Storytelling Podcast, episode number 58. Welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, where everything's fictional, even you. And now, here are your hosts, two guys and a girl who lie for a living, Garrett, Zach, and Chrissy. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Storytelling Podcast, the podcast that's all about fiction, and more fiction, and telling the best truths through the medium of lies. We need a new intro again. Damn it.
Yeah. I wonder how long that's going to take.
I am your host, Garrett Robinson. Shut up, Zach. I am your host, Garrett Robinson. With me, as always, faithful co-host ZC Bolger, faithful co-host Chrissy Moss, and introducing new faithful co-host to the show, Scott Richards, independent author, friend of the show. Hey, Scott.
Hey, everybody. I got to tell you that not that faithful.
Yes, Scott is a new addition to the program. We decided that for anybody who watches live over the last couple of months has noticed that things have been rather hectic, and it's not the first time that's happened. I have had circumstances happen in the past where, like, I just couldn't broadcast for a couple of weeks or whatever. And we realized that when we only have 3 people, if anybody has to leave for any particular reason, then the other two, it's just really awkward having a podcast with only 2 people. So we brought Scott on basically as like a sub. He's basically just a substitute podcast host.
We do what we can.
Scott, do you want to introduce yourself to our vast army of loyal followers / listeners / cult members?
No.
He's off to a roaring start.
Success. So hi, Scott Richards, author, geek extraordinaire. I enjoy reading,
Well, I don't know about
writing,
extraordinaire. I mean,
extraordinary, because it's got the E at the end. That makes it fancy.
he's so fancy.
Oh, God.
Scott and I became friends basically just through, I mean, I guess we met through the SPP fandom, right?
Yeah.
So we met and started, I think our first time when we started interacting a lot was when I formatted one of your books, which was Guardians of the Shroud, which, by the way, if you look on Scott's image right there, and that's when the audio listeners go, God damn it! But that's the one with the blue, white, and purple cover right there. It's pretty badass. I'm halfway through it right now. It's an excellent little read. And then the second book, Defenders of the Shroud, came out how long ago?
Immediately after the first, maybe just like a week after. So they've both been out maybe a month or 2.
So if you want to find out if Scott is any good or not, you've got 150,000 words about to decide, because they're nice. They're full-size novels. He's one of those weird guys who writes like full-size books.
Oh, jeez.
What the hell?
The first one's free, too.
It's a bad habit. I'm trying to break it, you guys. I'm trying.
This is an intervention. Speaking of intervention, it's not having anything to do with intervention, but Scott, you need to go watch the TBR podcast after we're done, because they talked about both of us.
Did they?
Yeah.
TBR?
TBR is Patrick Stemp's podcast. It's the To Be Read podcast, and they do a half-hour format. They have one topic a week, and then they talk about books that they've been reading and everything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and they've been reading Nightblade and the Guardians of the Shroud, and they should have way more subscribers. That's like a cool, nice little show, and they only have I don't know how many people listen to the audio, but they should, damn it, they should have more people. David Anson chimed in and said, watched what? I'm so sorry, David, but I really don't know what you're talking about. Can you explain further in the comments? And then Xavier said, he may be the substitute, but there is no substitute for Scott Richards.
This is true.
And Michael Aron said, nice to see you aboard, Scott Richards. Yay, we have our first approval of Scott. First and potentially the last.
Huzzah.
That's what makes him unique.
Special. So we have not broadcast in a few weeks, so let's take a minute before we get on our topic. Tonight we're talking about writing urban fantasy, because that happens to be Scott's big thing. So why doesn't everybody update on what's been going on, Zach?
Yes. What? Well, I'm back in town in Miami finally, which is great.
Back in front of the bathrooms.
Back in front of the bathrooms. I'll be in Los Angeles in November. Somebody's getting married up in this bitch.
It's not Zach. Yeah, just in case you're wondering.
No, it's some random person.
It's his cousin Larry.
No, but so over the last several weeks, I've actually been very in touch with several readers and getting books out. Mid-Realm and Danny Calloway, which has been a lot of fun, just getting feedback in person and getting to watch kind of the evolution of the reader as they go through, and they update me every morning. We were compared to Lord of the Rings, by the way, Garrett.
Yeah, well, I mean, so was Robert Jordan, and I fucking hate that guy. I don't hate that guy.
This is how we were compared to them. We were compared to them by her going, the girl that was reading it said, "Oh my God, I'm so scared right now of where I am in the book. It's like Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings freaked me the fuck out." I was like, awesome. She's like, it's so good. She loved it, which is great.
Cool.
And several other books, and then I have coming up some school tours in a couple other states, which is going to be fun. And Garrett might be jumping on board with that, and we're working that out. But
to be determined.
Yeah. So and then we have Ninja Bread Man 2 coming out.
Zach's fucking co-author. He's got to stop working with that guy because that guy's fucking unreliable.
Yeah. So we have 2 chapters left to write on that before it gets back to me.
I will discuss that in my update. But
Great.
yeah, it's
2 whole
coming.
chapters.
I know. We have
And yet night
Red
play
Man
is
3.
going swimmingly.
I know. Let's not even get into that right now. Let's wait till
Wasn't the last update on that he was ahead of schedule even?
Yeah,
I know, right?
And I was like, hallelujah! And I still don't have Ninja Bread Man. Anyway,
All right.
Ninja Bread Man 3 is almost done. I have a couple things to go over with Garrett. That should be finished up pretty soon once he has some time for me. And Realm Keepers 3 will be starting on the beats pretty shortly, probably the beginning of next month, which will be fantastic.
Super exciting. Chrissy, what's been happening with you? You've been blogging a lot recently, Chrissy.
I have been blogging
like
a lot.
your blogs.
Thank you.
For anybody who doesn't know, Chrissy Moss is over at chrissymoss.com. Definitely go check it out because she has a really damn good blog.
Well, thanks. I finally got 3 of my books up on permafree. It took forever ever. And I think I did it because of the Facebook permafree site you told me about.
Whoop, whoop. Make me permafree? Yeah, they're good.
Brazil.
I think that's what finally did it.
Good.
And what else? Let me see. I put out a couple of things on Wattpad, so they're free and you can go look at them. And I'm so close to finishing my freaking novel, it's driving me insane.
That's awesome. Do you have a tentative release date for it?
No. No, because every time I set one, I've set like 3 of them, and then I give up. I'm not setting one until it's finished.
All right, well, 10-4. I guess I will do my thing, but before I do my thing, Alexandra Ratliff likes my ring. I can't tell if she's talking about my Clada or my wedding ring. I think they're both pretty cool, so you know, whichever one you're into, I am also into that one. So here is my excuse. No, here's my litany of excuses. So for anybody who doesn't know, who doesn't follow particularly my website or blog or social media or anything like that, I have started a fantasy serial called Nightblade, and the episodes are 10,000 words long, and I've been releasing one every Friday at noon Pacific time. Reliably. I've actually been keeping to that schedule, which is like, I'm not a schedule person. We've talked about this on this show a lot. I don't do good with schedules.
What? No.
I know. No, it's but you know.
Unbelievable.
So I have done that, and as you guys mentioned before, I'm actually now ahead of schedule. What the fucking? I'm ahead of schedule, which basically means that I'm on schedule because right now the writing schedule that I'm on is on I write an episode every 3 days. Day 1 I outline, day 2 I write, day 3 I edit and publish. And that is the new schedule that I'm adopting, and I'm going to stick to that and build up a huge, just store of things waiting to be released. And as soon as an episode is done, it's going out for pre-order on all platforms. I'm going to Amazon Direct because they allow pre-orders now. Zach, you did get that memo, right?
Yeah, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
It's just so awesome. And I'm now selling directly through my site. And if you are hearing this for the first time and you are going to start reading Nightblade, buy them from me. Just do it that way. Just do it. But and so now I'm ahead of schedule, and I'm starting to catch up on all of the things that I'm behind on. Now, the reason that Ninja Bread Man wasn't the very first thing that I jumped in and did is that I have a lot of things I'm really behind on, and they're all with like personal friends of mine that are also paying me money. Like, so I have a book edit with Simon Canton that I sort of was totally stalled on for a while, and now that I'm productive again, like, I have time to do that. I'm narrating an audiobook for Soren Susiu that I haven't touched in a long time, and I have another book edit for Stacy Claflin, and so anyway, so I'm catching up on some of these things to do these big projects that have been like waiting for me for a very, very long time. But I'm on schedule, and I'm catching up with the backlog, and that's the important thing. So, but
let me throw a note in there real fast, just for the listeners.
Yes.
The thing is, like, even if Garrett had finished Ninja Bread Man in the last 2 months, I wouldn't have done anything with it because I haven't had any time. So,
yeah,
kind of on schedule for it right now.
Yay!
So it's kind of both of us.
But it's
I was just giving
easier
crap
to blame Garrett.
I'm forgetting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's that.
Yeah. No,
But,
it's not all.
yeah,
I mean,
Nightblade is.
I mean, yeah, I don't have it, but whatever.
Nightblade's really cool. Okay, I do want to. I'm sorry, but I do want to talk about a couple cool things on Nightblade. Things that are new and exciting and whatever. Volumes. I'm calling them volumes, not seasons. Volumes are going to be 8 episodes instead of 6, and I am not going to raise the price of episodes ever. So, episodes 1 through 8 will always cost 99 cents. But the volume will be $4.99. So, and then I'm selling direct, as I mentioned. But the other cool thing about that is that I'm selling subscriptions, which I'm super, super stoked about. People can actually subscribe to Nightblade for $2.99 a month, and I just send them every episode every week. And if they do that, I get more money than if they buy the individual. Like, that is the best. They save the most money. I get the most money. It's like perfect. And only a few people have subscribed so far, but I'm trying to push that. Subscribe to the series. It really is the best way to get the series. So anyway, that's just really cool, and I really do want to start pushing my readership more towards selling direct, because you need a smaller readership to be viable. So anyway, that's fun.
I agree.
Agreed.
Yeah, I want to do that as well.
Yeah. Oh my God, and the whole review strategy that we're doing on Realm Keepers and that I'm now doing on Nightblade is fantastic. Basically, we have the on Realm Keepers and Nightblade, we have it where if you review the first episode of the series, we give you the second one for free. Since we did that, Realm Keepers has passed 120. No, I think it's past 150 new reviews. I think we're getting close to 200. And
the
Nightblade,
first episode or the first book?
The first episode.
Okay.
So, and Nightblade has been getting 2 or 3 reviews every single day. It's only been out for a few weeks, and it's already at 60 reviews it passed today. So that is, I'm going to do this. I know it's like whatever, but for the first 100 reviews, if people review the first volume of Nightblade, I'm going to give them the second volume for free, which is like, that's 100 just for the first 100 reviews, which honestly is like $500 worth of sales. But then I can use those reviews to start doing BookBub and start doing this, that, and the other thing. So I'm going to do it. We'll see how it goes. That would be like
we should do that same thing with Realm Keepers, except they get one of the extra short stories.
We do like that, but nobody bites on it. We've had about 5 people. Yeah, if people review Midrealm, we give them Greystone. But like people are like, dude, that's a review for a 250,000-word book, and you give me like a 10,000-word short story. And it's like, but it's a really cool short story. Yeah.
It's just a really long book. It takes a long time to read it.
Right. Once we got Realm Keepers Volume Book 3 out, I'd be, or maybe Book 3 and Book 4 or something, I'd be okay with doing Wormspire for free if you review Midrealm. Again, just until we got to 100 reviews or like 200 or something. But I don't want to do that right now because it's like there's more than half your sales. Bam, just.
Yeah, I agree.
So.
Yeah, totally. Let's move on to Scott.
Yeah, Scott. Well, I mean, Scott doesn't really do anything.
I don't.
He chills.
What are you working on right now, Scott?
Right now, actually, I'm finalizing the 3rd book in the series, Survivors of the Shroud, and that I actually just put up for pre-order, so the link should be live for that either later tonight or tomorrow.
Ooh!
I'll be putting that up there, so I figure I'd give that pre-order thing a try, and then it goes live for release next Tuesday.
Or it goes live. Wait, it goes live next Tuesday?
Yeah, it'll go live next Tuesday. So.
Oh wow! So it's just like a 1-week pre-order. Oh, so it's like almost done.
Yeah.
I mean, almost released. That's awesome. I didn't know it was that close.
He writes really freaking fast, like you.
I don't know. I think you clear more words per day than I do. My daily goal is 5,000, and I feel pretty lucky if I hit that. But I also have usually about 2 periods out of the day that I can write, and those are my baby's 2 naps.
Right.
So dependent on her sleep schedule. Which actually, yeah, this last week has been a hassle. She hasn't been down for like more than 5-10 minutes at a time, and then like has crazy time sleeping. And I think she's teething again, but we don't need to talk about that.
It's weird being on this writing schedule because basically I have 2 days of no writing, and then one day when I basically just do 10,000 words, which usually actually turns into 11 or 12,000 that I edit down to 10,000. So it's like one day of just and then 2 days of nothing, and then one day of It's interesting, but it's good. And
now Scott. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
These are your books in your background here?
Yeah, those are mine.
Now, I haven't read your books. I will be reading them, but those are pretty awesome covers. Who did your covers?
That would be Steve Yeager. He did these amazing covers.
Steve Yeager did those? I love Yeager.
Yeah.
The Jägermeister.
The Jägermeister. Yeah, he did those, and then he did the cover for Survivors. He's going to do all 5. This will be a 5-book series when it's done.
Wow.
Those
look really cool.
Yeah, actually, this one is...
Yeah, you have to see it up close.
Hold on, I'm going to click that to bring it up. And if you're on the audio feed, you really do owe it to yourself to go check out the Shroud books. But that's Guardians of the Shroud, and from the moment I first saw that cover, I was like, "Damn, Gina!"
Yeah. That's a great layout.
Yeah. Truly.
I love that I can appreciate book covers now.
I know, right?
I had no issue with them before I was a writer. I was like, whatever. But now I'm like, wow, the font spacing is fantastic.
So I'm teaching at Delphi this summer, which is the school that Zach and I went to when we were younger, and like I'm hanging out in the classroom on a snack break for the kids or whatever, and I go to the bookshelf and I pull down some books, and I'm like, I remember loving this book. This is the worst designed book I've ever seen in my life. I loved it when I read it when I was like 12 or whatever, and it is the worst designed book. My God.
I've been having issues like that with some of the comic books that I was a big fan of when I was a kid. I was like, this is the most amazing story of the whole world. And now I'm like, after I've been writing them all, I'm like revisiting some of the older. I'm like, this is one of the worst written things I've ever read.
It's like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3. When you were a kid, it was awesome. They went back in time to Japan, and now it's so bad.
Yeah, exactly. There's the Honest Trailers YouTube channel, and they did a fantastic one about the the '80s version of the Ninja Turtle movies, and basically one line that they said in the middle, I was very much. What the actual fuck was that?
My ringtone.
I'm sorry, that was my pacemaker. I got kind of excited talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Don't let it stop you. Go ahead.
Michael Laron said, "Way to go, Steve Yeager, for the Shroud series covers. They rock. They totally do." And C. Valentino said, "Yay, urban fantasy." Hey guys, speaking of covers and C. Valentino just did a cover redesign for her book Poison and Wine. Full disclosure, I edited that book, but it's awesome, and it's urban fantasy, so it's very apropos of what we're talking about tonight. Anyway, what was I saying right before the demon music
Teenage
box?
Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yes, yeah. So the line in the trailer was, from the 1986 comes the movie that proves that this franchise was freaking ridiculous way before Michael Bay got his hands on it.
That's true.
The first movie was amazing, and it still is.
I don't know, amazing. I think highly entertaining.
It's amazing.
It was amazing, and the second one was just as amazing. It had Vanilla Ice in it for a minute.
For a whole minute.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go, go.
Go Ninja, go Ninja, go. Xavier Granville said, "Holy fucking gummy bears." I can only assume that was about the ringtone.
Or he just really likes gummy bears.
He's just sitting there at his computer. These are so good.
I just have to comment on these gummy bears I'm eating.
My God. So let's start drifting towards on topic. We can start drifting. Oh, the last thing that I wanted to just say about covers is I have been designing the paperback for Nightblade, and I should order it by the time I finish episode 8, which is going to be this Sunday. Dude, the paperback is so pretty. It's so pretty. And you can see in the Vlog Novel series that I basically just totally ripped off Twilight's cover design, except like with my own graphical elements, my own everything, but just like the whole thing. And then just looking at the design for the cover, I'm like, oh wow, I really can't wait to hold it in my hands. So I'll make sure to show that for next week's show if I get it ready by then. So let's start talking about urban fantasy. I'm going to consider you, Scott, our local resident expert on it. Can you give us a...
Let's completely forget that I did an urban fantasy too.
Yes.
Wait, define urban fantasy.
Well, that's what I wanted to start off with. Is Scott, would you tell us what that means? Because I feel like it's like young adult, where it's like, what does that actually mean?
Well, fun fact about young adult is the only thing that determines young adult is the age of the protagonist. Yeah, it's true.
I'm pretty sure that's not true, but okay.
No, actually it is, because my Guardians series, it's what I call accidental young adult, because they're teens, but I actually wrote it as more of an adult book. As far as urban fantasy...
Let's not even get into that.
Go ahead.
Let's not even get into that. Continue.
With urban fantasy, generally, all that encompasses is the story takes place in some sort of an urban setting, and it has fantastical elements about it. Now, the urban setting can be historical or modern or even futuristic, but generally, most urban fantasy takes place in more of a contemporary setting, so like just modern day. And then you add in things like magic and monsters or vampires and so on.
So not to completely shit over the entire concept of the genre, but would Twilight technically be urban fantasy?
Yeah.
No?
I would
What
say
would
it
you
was.
put it as?
No, I think Chrissy said yes. I think
it is.
Oh, did you...
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sorry, it sounded like you said nope to me. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or contemporary
so
fantasy.
basically, if it has magic.
I mean, does it have magic? It's got vampires and werewolves, so I guess that's the
Well,
fantastical
the vampires
element.
don't the vampires have abilities?
Oh yeah, they have like powers.
They can sparkle.
They're not...
Yeah.
Magic sparkle, go.
Jeez.
Go,
my
go,
God.
Gadget Sparkle.
Big shout out to C. Valentino, who says, "Oh, thank you, Staples," which is what she calls me. "I'm totally watching you guys while I answer 911 calls right now." She's an actual police dispatcher, so.
That
Oh,
is
jeez.
amazing.
I know, right?
That
Oh
is
my
some
God, we
crazy
should have her on
podcast.
here. Now that is like fantastic,
we
fantastic,
should.
Stuff for books.
Okay, Valentino, you are C. Valentino. You are officially invited onto the Storytelling Podcast. We'll bring you on at some point when Garrett gets around to organizing it. So.
So we'll never see you.
I would have liked to have met her.
Okay, so that's actually. Zach, I think we're technically urban fantasy because Realm Keepers totally takes place in modern times.
Right, but it doesn't happen on Earth. Like, I wouldn't say we're.
No, it's totally urban
Doesn't
fantasy.
it? Because it kind of foreshadows that some of it's on Earth.
Or
Sort of.
does it?
Well, I mean, Terrence. There's
I
like
think,
not the magic part. The magic part doesn't happen.
Did you say the magic part?
right, there's no fantasy part that's actually.
on
Well,
Earth?
On
there's
Earth?
there's one aspect. There's one aspect that's on Earth, but that's it.
Or is there?
Or is there?
Done. Oh, hold on. Effects. Google effects. Hold on. This is a really
God.
long time to wait for the payoff of this joke. Hold on. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Well, anyway, while he's doing that,
Was that the urban effect?
No, that was the drama. Or is there?
So staticky on my end, it's ridiculous.
It sounds like a smokestack from a cruise ship.
It sounds like a fart from like a transformer.
Sounds kind of like the Inception. Sounds kind of like the Inception sound effect.
I just want to point out that there's a your mom joke in here, and I'm not making it. I just want to be known that I'm not making that joke. I'm taking the high road.
I appreciate that, Scott. Thank you very much.
'Cause it's right there. It's right there.
It's hanging out there. It's just
It's
flopping
hanging.
in the wind.
And I'm not doing it.
I'm not gonna say that. Never mind.
That's amazing. Okay, so
let's move.
so Scott, other than Twilight, which I wouldn't necessarily consider, what would be if somebody were to put together an essential urban fantasy reading list, other than the Shroud series, what would you tell them to put on it?
That would be tough. A lot of urban fantasy is currently taken up by, that I have come into contact
Harry
with.
Potter.
We'll put it that way. Harry Potter, actually.
Harry Potter.
Yeah. It's
Hell yeah.
modern day, and it has magical elements to it.
Wait,
Uh,
now, no. If
and
Harry
the
Potter's
magic
urban
elements also
fantasy, then
play.
we're urban fantasy.
Yeah.
Like hardcore.
No, because Harry Potter, they have Dementors going into the normal world and all that
Right.
crap.
Okay,
Harry
yeah,
Potter
fine.
takes place, in today's world.
And we don't have anything
Yeah, it
happening.
takes place on planet Earth.
Yeah, and we don't have anything happening on Earth. Or do we?
Or do we?
The Dresden Files.
Transformer
Dresden Files, yeah.
Oh,
Jim
the
Book-
Dresden Files. Even I know that one.
Yeah.
And the other one would be Kim Harrison and her series, the Dead Witch Walking series, which is Dresden only with a girl.
Nice. I haven't heard that one.
The comparison?
Yeah, it's about a witch instead of a warlock or a wizard.
Did you
So-
say the author is comparison?
Kim Harrison.
Kim Harrison, sorry.
Sorry.
That would be an awesome name. All right,
The
I'm
new
changing.
novel by comparison. Comparison to what? Shut up.
It's just like that other one you like.
Okay, so
Scott
Kim
may be
Harrison,
able
the
to do
Dresden
the
Files.
trailers.
What else? What's good urban fantasy to check out?
Way of the Wolf was really good. It's a good series.
That sounds like a werewolf erotica.
It's actually not.
I like that title. I think it's a good title.
Yeah,
Although
it's actually about aliens that are similar to vampires, and they end up taking over the world.
And there's
then-
nothing in it about wolves.
There is, but just read the book.
There's actually a lot of erotica or romance and active romance that's urban.
Aggressive.
Active romance. Come on, I mean, just own it. It's erotica. Like, if, I don't know.
Well, some of it's erotica, but some of it's romance. It depends, some of it doesn't actually have much sex in it.
I just want to say that Way of the Wolf sounds like every 90s action movie that was ever made.
This summer, Steven Seagal is the way. He is walking the way of the. I mean, he's participating in the.
He's
way
a
of the
wolf, goddammit.
He's a wolf. Steven Seagal is a wolf.
More like Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Okay, that's cool. And you said that. So you said that it's irrelevant of time period, so to speak. Like
Yeah.
it could be historical urban fantasy, futuristic urban fantasy.
Yeah. Generally, I mean, if you think about it, you go far back in time far enough, and you might as well just call it, contemporary fantasy at that point.
That's
they're in the
what I was
medieval
going to
realm,
ask. Is have you read? Have you been able to poke into Nightblade yet?
I haven't yet.
Okay.
I admit that. I apologize.
Reading your fucking book, Scott. No, but
one book. I read your Realm Keepers.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're addicted to that. That's like a drug, It's an addiction. So that doesn't count.
I'm feeling rather accomplished right now since I've read all of your guys' books.
Woo! Yay!
Oh, Chrissy, that reminds me. I cleaned out my entire email list last weekend, and I found.
Forgotten one?
Yeah, so I'm gonna be reading that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. What do you call it? So as of episode 4, I think. Yeah, as of episode 4, I mean everything's taking place in a city for the rest of the first volume of Nightblade. So, I mean, I guess technically, if I wanted, like, it wouldn't be jumping the shark necessarily if I did, like, the category jumping strategy and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So you, like, if theoretically, if I did urban fantasy, people wouldn't be like, "What the fuck?"
Right.
Interesting. Good to know.
Possibly.
Good to know. Good
Yeah.
options. Scott's like, "No, I'd shit all over you."
Like I said, I would leave a review 1 star. This was not urban.
This asshole.
Generally, it's modern day, but really all that matters is it takes place in an urban setting. So you could, if the rest of it mostly takes place like in a city, and you have to deal with all of that happens in there, then you could.
Okay, cool. C. Valentino said, "You'll see me totally. I'm at Killer Nashville this weekend giving a panel on self-publishing, so I'll plug the crap out of you guys. Yay!"
Nice.
Oh, awesome.
Nightblade. And then Quotidian Light says that the drama sound effect sounds like a Transformer fart.
That's what I said
That's
3
what you
fucking
said,
times.
yes.
Oh, she was probably just repeating after you.
That was a question.
You
That was
never
not-
listen to me anymore.
There's 4 people. I can't hear what everybody's saying.
Well, maybe we should drop someone from the podcast.
All right, Zach, you're out. Okay, so what do you do in urban fantasy to how do you say it? Respect fans of the genre. For example, if you're writing a vampire book, you don't make your fucking vampires sparkle. Obviously, that created its own fan base, but it pissed off vampire enthusiasts. So if somebody's like, all right, I want to do urban fantasy, what do they do not to get urban fantasy fans to go, you don't know what you're talking about?
That actually is a fine line, because generally if you follow one path that's more young adult urban fantasy, that generally has a female protagonist, first person perspective, and there's a love triangle. Like, of the ones that I've come into contact with, that's what I've come across. Now, there's the more adult urban fantasy, which is like Jim Butcher. We were talking about the Dresden Files.
Right.
And that obviously doesn't follow that format, but like with mine, like I said originally, it was just writing a story and it was really supposed to be more of an adult story. They just happened to be teens. It's third person and follows a male protagonist, so it sort of breaks that standard. But I've had people comment saying that they've wanted something along those lines.
Nice.
So I'm not appealing to really what's running popular right now, but I think that there is another audience that's looking for something different that I guess it does appeal to. So it really all depends on if you're just trying to tell this story this way, or if you're trying to, follow in the footsteps of, City of Bones and Twilight and.
You're just desperately trying to maintain street cred while you sell out, aren't you, Scott? That's what's going on here.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's also kind of like reinventing the wheel. Like, you don't want to do that. I mean, that's what
Right.
she did with vampires. She took something that people love. They love reading about vampires, and she's like, oh, well, I'm gonna change it.
Yeah,
You know?
if she had literally just been like exact same story, even same quality of writing, but just had not had the vampires be sparkly and had them obey the traditional rules of vampires. I'm not saying that people wouldn't have shit on the series, but people
Well,
less
Winston
people
is
would have
bad.
shit. Yeah.
It wasn't the first vampire series where the vampires could walk in the daylight. Well,
No.
I think the sparkly
You have
part,
Daywalker.
yeah, and the sparkly part was a problem. But my bigger problem was, I just watched the movie. I didn't read the book, but the movie, he stops a freaking bus with
No,
his
the movie-
hands.
Right.
Let's not
And
even
has
get
to
into
prove
the
that he's supernatural
Look,
by
Spider Monkey.
sparkling.
Spider Monkey. Let's not get into the book. I mean the movie.
So Holly Harris chimed in and said, personally, I've always thought of urban fantasies being in a city setting rather than, say, modern-day farming town Iowa. No offense, Iowa.
Wait, someone should do a fantasy in Iowa,
Yeah.
like werewolves and vampires.
Okay.
Well, I know
Actually,
mine is.
this goes back to the love triangle thing and to Iowa. I just read Under the Empyrean Sky by Chuck Wendig. I actually reviewed it on my vlog and blog yesterday. It's a dystopian sci-fi young adult. It takes place in cornfields in future America, and the love triangle was actually good. I was like, it's young adult, so it's got the love triangle thing, and like young adult love triangles often terrible. But it was really good. So anyway, big quick shout out to Chuck Wendig. He's a funny man.
Chuck is funny. I've always enjoyed reading his stuff.
Have you read his Miriam Black series? Is that urban fantasy?
I haven't actually read that, but is that the one where she can see the deaths?
I am looking it up right now. I'll bet you that is like right up
I'm pretty
urban
sure.
fantasy.
Yeah, that would be their. Now there's a subgenre, or some would consider it a completely separate genre, which would just be paranormal fantasy,
Uh-huh.
and a lot of that still takes place in a modern day urban setting, but that centers more around ghosts and spiritism,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to monsters and magic and things like that. It just focuses on hauntings and the returning spirits of others,
Right.
stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so this is definitely urban fantasy. Oh, so I guess in terms of filmmaking, would you consider something like Sixth Sense to be urban fantasy? Or would that just be
Ooh.
paranormal?
Good question.
I would think that would just be paranormal.
Yeah, okay.
paranormal.
But Blackbirds is categorized the Miriam Black series
Yeah, yeah.
is categorized as urban fantasy. It's about a girl who can see when people will die. She's grown up being able to see that, and like eventually gave up trying to save people, which is just like depressing. But anyway,
Good thing I won't need to read the book.
I think the difference between paranormal and urban fantasy or other fantasies like that is ESP and ghosts and stuff. There are people in this world who think that stuff is real. Whether or not it is, that's up to your own interpretations. But the most stuff in fantasy, it's usually about gods and goddesses and magic and stuff that it can't happen.
what are you talking about? I don't. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Vampires
Except for
aren't
in your
real.
dreams, of course.
I'm a level 20 wizard, so.
Okay, so I'm gonna go out on a limb and say something that I think is urban fantasy and which I loved was American Gods by Neil Gaiman. That's right.
I haven't read it.
I can go with that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's not really city, but
No, but it's modern day,
yeah.
and that has a lot of weight to it. In sticking with the M. Night movies, if Sixth Sense is more paranormal than The Lady in the Water.
Oh yeah.
That would be urban fantasy.
Yeah.
Nice. And
So-
Signs would just be schlock. No, just kidding.
Sci-fi.
Uh,
It would
Mel
be
Gibson.
sci-fi if you think about them as aliens, but
but
a
are they?
new theory. Exactly. See, a new theory actually came about, and it changes the whole movie. It's very fascinating.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here. While recognizing all of the problems with it, I fucking love Signs. I really
loved
liked that
it.
movie. Like when I watched it, I just walked out going, "Oh my god, so amazing!" And then after, it was one of those ones where afterwards people are like, "Yeah, but the thing," and I was like, "Oh, okay, fine." Like,
Well, here's the
damn
thing,
you.
and I'm just gonna say to everybody that thought Signs was a really crappy sci-fi, I would suggest rewatching it one more time, but instead of thinking of them as aliens, what if they're demons?
Ooh.
Interdimensional beings.
Because think about it, was he a reverend that lost his faith?
Yeah.
His son says he thinks like God did it, and the little girl, there's that whole theory
Yeah.
about like the young and the innocents, and it's not that it's water, it's that it's holy water.
Because it's his holy water. Because he's the reverend. And
And the little girl is like his offspring, and so that's what's hurting it. And if you notice in the broadcast at the end of the movie when they're saying that people in the Middle East have found a way to defeat the
nice, because of the Holy Land, and that's awesome.
Watch it one more time, just with that in mind, and all of a sudden it's everywhere, and you wonder like how you missed it, because it's like
I'll keep that in mind in my Shyamalan marathon this weekend.
you're welcome.
Are you really having a Shyamalan?
No, I'm not. C. Valentino brought up her problem with Twilight. She said Twilight had no origin story. All vampires, no origin of them. And then Michael Aron said, "Hey, I'm from Iowa. Don't tread on it. Great place to live. Terrible place to be an indie."
Terrible place to be a vampire.
I feel like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a good place to be an indie until you suddenly start making it. I don't know if there's a good or bad place to be an indie or traditional either. Because like New York is like
New York.
Well, New York would say, "Oh, it's a terrible place to be an indie." But if you're an indie, you're like working from home anywhere.
Right.
What do you care?
Although
Yeah, they had to
Sean
think of
seems to think
where's
San
West,
Antonio is great.
You mean Austin?
Austin, sorry.
Yeah.
What is the least expensive city to live in? There you go.
That would be
this place.
yeah.
That would be
North
Food
Dakota.
stamps and everything.
North Dakota is cheap as dirt to live in.
nice. Good to know.
Not that anybody wants to live there because of the 6 months of
Because it's
snow,
all
but
dirt.
I'm moving to North
no,
Dakota.
it's snow.
I would consider moving somewhere where like rent was like $300 a month for your like four bedroom 3-bath
We
mansion.
had a 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house for $300 a month in North Dakota.
What?
No, you
didn't.
Yes.
No. I'm moving to
Crap.
North
That's how much a tent costs.
This was 10
That's
years
a tent
ago.
in Los Angeles.
That was 10 years ago.
That's not a tent.
That's like
And
for a
since
permit.
then,
that's a permit for.
and since then, they have started the whole oil fracking thing, so people are fracking up there. But
I'll bet they are.
Yeah.
you could buy a house
Battle
for
stuff.
$50,000 up there, and it was a nice house. So, yeah.
Oh my God, Garrett.
But like I said, who wants to live there? Because it's six months a year it's snowing.
I like snow.
Well,
Sounds good.
more power to you. I can't stand
I
snow.
live in Miami currently. I would love some snow.
I live in LA.
Nearly
I
like
like the rain.
11:30 at night,
I
and
live
it's
in
like 80
Seattle.
degrees.
I love the rain.
Oh, utterly fantastic. Oh man. Okay, so I feel like we've drifted rather far away from urban fantasy
yeah.
by this point.
No, this is all urban fantasy. All of it.
This is all totally bad. Okay,
I love urban fantasy.
so what and I'll pose this to Scott and Chrissy, as people who write urban fantasy. See how I brought you back into the fold there, Chrissy?
Aw, thank
are you happy now? She's all in the chat window like, I write urban fantasy too, you son of a bitch.
I would never call you that.
Saying terrible
I don't
things.
know your mother.
So what do you think would be like maybe an overdone trope in the genre, or like for me, in fantasy, when like, because I primarily do fantasy. I want to start doing more sci-fi, but primarily in fantasy. Like for me, wizards and magic just is like, I feel like they've been done to death, and while we still do them and incorporate them, I try to make stories not about the magic, but about the people who happen to be interacting with the magic. What for you are like the most overdone things, or just the things that it's like, yes, we get it. You've got a vampire who's in love with a human being. Okay. What would be your thing for that?
Well, like you were saying about how people, got upset because she changed those vampires to be sparkly.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the trope, though, is that a vampire is a vampire, a werewolf is a werewolf. Switching them up a little bit, making them your own creature instead of just following along with what everybody else does, is kind of, new and extraordinary, and gets you, I think, gets you a better book.
So she can put your blurb on the back of Twilight as ... extraordinary?
No. There was a lot more wrong with it than the sparkling.
Now there's a comment for the back of the blurb.
Like I
Scott,
said,
how about
sparkling was just, the top of the mountain.
Scott? How about you?
I think part of that could just be chalked up to the taste of the writer and the stories that they pursue mentally when they're thinking of like, oh, that's a cool idea, I want to write that.
I don't normally like the way writers taste. We're a stringy bunch.
It's a bit gamey. I tend to just naturally incline myself towards something that's more unique. So I think something that's really overly done would be like the wizards and the vampires and the werewolves. It's like these have existed for 50 years or more in our culture and like in our storytelling and everything. If you think of something else to put into it, something that's unique, something that
what I really like about Guardians, and like I said, I'm only halfway through, so if it anyway,
I'll
Guardians
spoil it
is
for you, don't worry.
Sorry?
I'll spoil it for you.
Okay, well, Guardians is about empaths, which I'm just like, I have never read a book about empaths. This is cool. I'm sure that somebody has written books about empaths. I have not encountered it. An empath is somebody who like feels other people's emotions, but more than that. Like, depending on
He
what
literally feels them.
Right, like depending on what version of empath you're talking about, it's like you see people's auras, or you can sense when violence happened in a place 50 years ago, just all kinds of stuff like that.
It's like those chicks from Minority Report.
Well, but they see the future. Yeah, they were precog.
Yeah,
that's right.
But it's like I feel like there's a bunch of TV series that do this, where it's like they come on the scene and it's like, oh, I can sense the violence that happened here. We're looking for a man with stringy black hair, like that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Most of them use clairvoyance. They don't use empathy.
Well, but that's what I liked, is like it's a book about empaths. And also, I really think you did something smart by saying within the first couple of chapters, it's like, he didn't know when he realized that he was an empath. And once you said that, I looked back at what I'd read and I was like, oh, right, he's an empath. Like, I knew that word, and I had read what was going on, but I didn't immediately go empath. And it was just nice of you to label it, because now I can just go, oh, it's a book about empaths, and people will go, oh, I get it. Whereas, like, before getting that label, I would have been like, it's a book about a kid who can like see emotions, but not just emotion, da 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 da, and gone on a whole shingamabang.
Right. It is tough to describe succinctly the whole empathy thing. It's like, but yeah, you made a good point. Just real fast, and then Chrissy, the floor is yours.
No, I was trying to think of a story that I've read with an empath in it, and I can't.
Well, we've got some excellent,
Yeah,
comments to fill in the silence. Kevin Michael said, "How dare Scott Richards get a better webcam for a live show? It no longer looks like it's snowing in his bedroom."
You're welcome.
And then I can't pull up her comment for some reason, but C. Valentino said, "Scott and Chrissy, POV and urban fantasy. Thoughts? I am also very interested in this."
A lot of it follows first person. I write third because I'm terrible at writing first person.
Thank you.
There's that.
I've only done one story ever with first person, and that's Footprints that Garrett has read.
Yeah.
And I think it came out very well, but I don't think I could do it for a whole novel.
No, I think it was great, and I think that selectively first person, particularly first person present tense. I mean, like I said, I used to hate the Hunger Games, and then for some reason I came back to it, and I was like, oh wow, this is cool. But yeah, first person present tense is just, boy, that's really hard. Chuck Wendig's going back to the Empyrean Sky, that was written in third person present tense. Mm-hmm. That was interesting. Again, like I can't remember a book. I'm sure I've read that before, but I can't remember the last book that I read that in, and it makes for very interesting storytelling. It's like everything's happening now, but you're not a teenage girl.
Right. Not yet.
Or are you?
Damn it, Zach. Here we go.
I mean, in general, third-person point of view limited is probably the most common and most easiest to write, I think, and the easiest to relate to when you're reading.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
it's the easiest for me. Yeah.
Well, we have Realm Keepers in first-person past tense, and Danny is in third-person past tense.
Yeah.
And then
yours is third person.
Ninja Brother.
Yeah. Most of, almost everything that I've ever written has been third person, except for Realm Keepers, which I think, again, just Realm Keepers is like using that Animorphs model is where like I came up with the idea. Oh, and also writing, because we're writing about the 6 different kids, so it really worked well.
Right.
So, but yeah, first person is like.
That's the third person limited because it's limited to a single person for each episode.
Right. But first person, I feel like I just get tired of it after. If that was all that I read, I'd get tired of it.
Right.
I can read a book that way every once in a while.
But it's also different for Realm Keepers because you're changing characters every episode, so you have a different personality that you're dealing with, so it actually changes you around.
Right.
So both Dresden and the Hollows books by Kim Harrison, they're both written in first person, and both of them are very well done.
Nice.
I know the Dresden.
Obviously, everybody loves Dresden, but
you had touched on something before, though, not to purposely break away from point of view, but there was just one thing that I wanted to comment on. When you were talking, Garrett, about like really what makes like the story unique or something like that. One thing that really comes to mind is the difference between the movies Jumper and the movie Push. Jumper was about the kid. Now I would consider both of those urban fantasy because those are urban fantasy, but maybe like sci-fi or paranormal because both movies are about special powers.
Right.
So it's like gray area. It could go either way.
Right.
But Jumper is a movie about a kid that can teleport.
Right.
And like the plot of the movie is just this dressing that they threw on around that ability. It felt to me. I felt that it could have been done better. But Push is a plot about these people doing a heist and trying to accomplish this thing, and they just happen to have powers.
Right.
And I think that when writing an urban fantasy or when doing anything that
Mhm.
like that, it's
Yeah.
important to keep that difference in mind, to make sure you have a plot that you're pushing
Right.
through, like an actual
Right.
story, and just have the powers and everything that's special around it be something that augments it, but not what the story is about itself.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a thing that people fall into often, is just being so obsessed with concepts, and even world building. It's like, yeah, world build, that's fantastic, but your story and your characters is what's going to end up being most important. Wade
Right.
Finnegan asked, would Charmed be an urban fantasy TV?
I
Definitely.
would say yes. Yeah.
Okay, I haven't
So
actually
is
seen
Buffy?
it, so. Yeah,
Buffy
Buffy.
as well?
There you go.
Buffy.
An Angel.
Holly Harris said, make sure you include Lady
Walking
in the
Dead?
Water in your marathon. My personal favorite, M. Night. I'm not doing an M. Night Shyamalan marathon. That's not.
Oh, come on! I love M. Night Shyamalan.
But in my defense,
Come on, Last Airbender.
Would you call that a
Except
Shyamalan?
for that one. That never happened. I refuse to admit that ever happened.
What, Last Airbender?
We
I don't
don't
know what you're
refuse
talking
because we
about.
went and saw the Midnight Show. God damn it!
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, I know we've told that story on the podcast before.
We've told that story before.
Yeah, we went and we saw it at midnight, and I had never seen the cartoon, and Zach had, and he was like, "Dude, you're gonna love it. Dude, you're gonna love it. Dude, you're gonna
Please
love it." And
tell
we-
me you've seen the cartoon since.
Yes, and we walk out of the theater, and I'm like, how do I tell Zach that his favorite TV series is fucking crappy? And he turns to me and he's like, that was the worst piece of... And I'm like, oh, thank God. I went and watched the TV series. If you haven't watched the TV series, it's fantastic.
oh yeah, no, the show is
The
fantastic.
show is amazing.
We make our kids watch it. They don't even like it. So we are getting on towards the hour mark. So I guess we'll just end with okay. So clarify for us the demarcation between urban fantasy and so the show Supernatural, urban fantasy, paranormal.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it goes one way or the other.
Well, that makes me cool. I'm very clear
Because
on that
that's
point now.
evil demons. It's both.
I'm now very, very certain about. I need more explanation.
I
Now,
think
would Walking Dead be urban fantasy or horror?
Horror.
zombies are horror.
Yeah,
but they're not even
zombies.
it's not a scary show. That's the thing.
It's
Because
not
here's the
supposed
thing.
to be.
But horror doesn't necessarily mean scary.
Yes, to me.
It would be really, if you were going to put Walking Dead as anything, you would put it under post-apocalyptic.
It's like Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland. They're both, comedy horror.
Right. Yeah.
Or non-zombie. The book by
Non-zombie.
Garrett Robinson.
I
Who's
have not
he?
heard
I've
of
never
that.
met him.
Fuck all of you.
Look at that.
All right, that's it for
This is
this
the same
tonight's
place.
storytelling podcast. Thank you very much for no. It's like the kid who flips over the chessboard.
Okay, so I will make it simple.
Yeah.
Fantasy and paranormal, they are like this, and sometimes they go like this.
That looks sexy.
Sometimes they overlap.
They're like this, and
So-
sometimes it's a little bit of this action, right? It's just kind of going like this.
It's a new cleaner podcast. Yeah.
Jared,
Welcome to the new Cleaner Storytelling Podcast.
For those of you listening on audio, we can't.
No, don't explain what just happened.
We can't.
Go watch
I
the
actually,
video.
Before we wrap out, I do, and we will wrap out now, but I do want to make a plea, whether you listen to us on the audio feed, which I am putting back together, by the way, but whether you listen to us on the audio feed or you watch on the live shows, please go find the show on iTunes and give us a rating. We've never really pushed very hard for that, and now we are going to be broadcasting every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will be releasing audio every single week. It will stay up. I will keep it up. I swear. And so please pop over to iTunes, give an honest rating. Unfortunately, the iTunes store is a little bit broken right now, and only the 5-star works. If you click on any of the other stars, the rating just doesn't. So you have to click on the 5-star. If you want to say something
I've heard of
terrible,
that.
just leave it in the review. But you have to click on the 5-star, otherwise it's not going to work. No, but that does help other people find us. It helps the podcast become more visible, and that would be cool because we like hanging out with you guys, and we want to do that. And yeah, anything else to say before we wrap out for the night?
Nope.
Nope.
Then I will just end by saying keep your eye on this space and the new Sterling and Stone channel. I'm going to be starting a new video series, that Nuts and Bolts series that I talked about forever ago. Me and Sean are putting it together right now, and that's going to be super, super exciting. So keep
I'm
your
actually
eyes.
looking forward to that one.
Yes, it's going to
be awesome.
we're you know Sean and me, like we're working on the scripts right now, and we're both like, oh my god, this is going to be the best thing ever. This is going to change the world, and it's like, okay.
Keep your eye out for Gingerbread Man.
Yes, and keep your eye out for Ninjabread Man, and go buy Nightblade, and go buy Guardians of the Shroud. Damn
It's
it, buy
free.
our books.
And go buy Danny Calloway. You
Yes,
should have already bought that alone.
I didn't write anything, so never mind. Forget me.
go buy all of Chrissy's books.
All the
of
Chrissy.
books.
3 times.
Actually, on a serious note, Chrissy, you should pick one. Maybe after you finish your novel, you should pick one title, and you should make that your thing. And like that should be like the number one thing that you've pushed, because there's strength to pushing a single title, or even just like one or two. But the problem is whenever I'm like, Chrissy, author of Jesus Christ, Small Bites and Flight of the Griffins and this thing, and like, what do you want me to say?
There's a lot of them.
There are. So once you finish your novel, that will be your thing. Capital
like it or
your.
not.
Capital
Okay.
thing. All right. And with that, I will call an end to this evening's storytelling podcast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in live. Lots of live comments. Thank you, Holly, Wade, Patrick, C. Valentino, Kevin, Michael Laron, everybody else who commented, Quotidian Light. We'll see you next week at 7 p.m. I'm Garrett. You can find me at garrettbrobinson.com. Zach is at zcbolger.com. Scott is at guardiansoftheshroud.com, right?
TheShroudBetween.com.
TheShroudBetween.com. And Chrissy is at ChrissyMoss.com. We'll see you next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Good night.
Creepy.